Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. We're going to go over our top highest scores on SwitchUp from last month.
Yep, last month being June, wasn't it? So we did 8 games in terms of reviews last month, and as Mark just said, we're going to go from the lowest score for the month all the way up to the highest to let you know which games were worth your time and money.
Do save yourself 5%, support SwitchUp as well by buying your eShop credit over at switchup.gg. Don't have to do anything special, you'll just get that back in cash back.
Good stuff. So which game got the highest score for the month of June? Well, let's find out. Starting off in 8th place then for the month, we had, is it Tchia?
Oh yeah, Tchia. Yeah, this was an interesting one. This was initially a PlayStation exclusive, I believe.
Right, yeah.
I didn't realise that. And it's basically a 3D adventure game set in an archipelago. It's fictional, but it is based on New Caledonia. And you play as a young girl whose father gets kidnapped, and you have to go off and essentially try and rescue him. But to do that, you end up doing a lot of fetch questing across a very large open world map.
Right, that's of all the storylines that it could have been.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting a kidnapping in there, I've got to say.
No, it was a bit odd actually. That's where it kind of showed its like indie roots, you know, like the way the kidnapper just rocked up as well at the start. It was like, okay, so that's the story then. All right, let's go. What I love about this though, and I think that you would probably quite like, is there's quite a musical element to it.
Right.
You got a little ukulele. And it's a full-on ukulele. Like you can play that thing, all the chords. It's got like high and low, major, minor chords. It's quite good. It's quite clever.
Nice.
And it uses that Zelda mechanic where you kind of, that becomes, you know, intrinsic to the gameplay.
Yeah.
It just, the open world, it did a bit of Ubisoft, you know, and it was just a little bit too sparse. And I was a little bit like, The sailing was quite fun, but you had to like, when you were sailing, you had to move from the sail to the rudder and then move to the anchor, and it's just a bit clunky. Good game though, it got a SwitchUp score of 73%.
In 7th place for the month then we had a game that was brought to the Switch Online, and that's Perfect Dark.
Yeah, Perfect Dark, I don't know if you played this back in the day, but it obviously came from Rare, and it was essentially a sequel to GoldenEye because they didn't have the license to carry on with that game, so they made a spy game in air quotes with all exactly the same mechanics and slightly different weapons. But I think it's fair to say that they actually improved upon many of the things they couldn't do in the James Bond universe by really improving the types of gadgets that you could use. There were lots of things like a little remote camera you could control and fly around. The levels as well were a little bit more detailed, and it has a co-op mode on there. Now, yes, the Nintendo Switch version isn't the best. Like, it can really chug when you're doing 2-player co-op.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it drops down, but then people forget that the games used to run at 19 frames per second. And it was fine. And it was fine now. I played it with my son and we had a great time.
Yeah, I remember, as you just said, I did very much enjoy this game back in the day, probably more so than GoldenEye in terms of mechanics, but I didn't like the story. It became a bit X-Files-y, didn't it, with aliens and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, no, very good game. Controls as well, bit of a downfall for this one.
Yeah, I would say if you've got this or if you're considering playing it, obviously it's on the Nintendo Online or the N64's new adult online app that you have to download separately. If you do want to play it, do check out my guide on how to modify the controls using the Switch's custom button system, because otherwise it's just a nightmare.
Lovely stuff. With that in mind, it got 76%.
Alright, and then we've got Star Wars Hunters, which I have to say has been a pleasant surprise. This is one of those games that I play daily. Sometimes with a lot of you guys. I'm not bragging, I've got lots of friends on there. Friends! Yeah, loads of people have added me. I think I put my username or something on the review that I did.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like I've been bombarded, which is nice. So every time I go on, we have like a few games with subscribers and stuff. And it's like a hero shooter. So you have 4v4, different game modes, sometimes capture the area, sometimes it's just get 25 kills. And I think it's brilliantly balanced. Now, it does come from Zynga, who are a mobile games developer, so you can see that in every aspect of the UI and stuff like that. But the core gameplay, I think Disney should have said to them, hey, do you know what, we really like this so much, let's make it a full paid experience without all that crap in it.
Yeah.
And without all of that, it would have had a much higher score. Right now, though, it got a SwitchUp score of 77%.
Lovely, into the top 5 then, and in 5th place we had Metal Slug Attack Reloaded. This is a tower defense game, but not your traditional tower defense. It's more, you're on the left, they're on the right, you kind of walk towards each other and battle. You have to get to their base and blow it up, or obviously they'll get to yours. And it uses like a gachapon machine where you have to use your in-game currency, and I will stress it is in-game currency, to unlock new characters, random characters, and then continue to try and obviously go through the stages. Very addictive. Like I found myself quite compelled to keep going despite coming across some massive difficulty spikes, which is one of the negatives, is that you'll reach these times where it feels impossible to go forward with strategy. You just have to keep buying, the new characters and leveling them up and grinding for XP or for the money that you use to level up. And it can become a bit frustrating. Some people will get fed up with it. So it's one of those strange sort of games where, from my personal experience, I found it fun, and I did find it kept my attention, but I could fully understand someone else binning it off very quick,
Yeah, I saw in the comments basically that you'd have like a few people that were like, no, this is, as Glen said, I could take the time and enjoy that, all the aspects of it. And then, a couple of other people that were like, no, not having it, didn't like it because of that. And I think you kind of disclaimed that quite well in the review.
Yeah, I basically said ignore the numbers, because the numbers are very arbitrary in this review. Listen to what I'm saying, because you'll know then if it's for you or not. But for me, as I said, enjoying it as much as I did, it got a SwitchUp score of 78%.
Coming in at number 4, we have Moonstone Island.
Yeah, Moonstone Island. Quite an interesting game, this one. It's basically a farm life game for the most part, with some foraging and crafting elements in there too. But it's alongside that, it's a monster battler / collector with card-based combat. So they've thrown a whole bunch of different ideas into this one. And you start off on one base island. You're an alchemist or a wannabe alchemist. And there are 100 islands about you, within the vicinity of where you are. And over time, you'll travel to these islands. Now, these 100 are procedurally generated, but it's done all at once at the start of the game.
Yeah.
So it generates a world for you. And on these islands, obviously, you'll find new monsters to catch and new resources to collect up and forage. And obviously, then you can craft new bits and bobs. My biggest issue with it is it's a bit slow going. It has so many different elements all fighting for first place that it does take a while to truly get going. But once it does get going, it's actually a very well crafted game. I will give it that. And I can see, again, this being one that some people will be stuck on for many an hour, stuck on in a positive way, I mean, and possibly even a few people's games of the year come the end of the year, For me, not quite there, but still very, very good. Got a SwitchUp score of 80%.
In third place then, we had the re-release on Switch of Monster Hunter Stories, which I'd actually previously played through, or I say played through, I'd watched my daughter play it on the iPad actually. And we obviously had the sequel come to Switch first, and then we had this one, so you instantly see almost the downgrades rather than the upgrades.
Yeah.
Visually, you're looking at full HD and things like that. It runs at 30 FPS, happy days. But I did straight away, as I say, experience and feel those differences in terms of the core gameplay mechanics not being as good. The world wasn't as large, the mechanics weren't quite as fleshed out, but even with that, it's still a good solid RPG that holds up, where you go around collecting up monsters, using them, you can actually ride them around, very much like the sequel.
Yeah.
And it's got a reasonably interesting story, I will say. It's okay, it's nothing that's going to set the world on fire. But I just enjoyed it. It was one of those that I was playing a lot in handheld. It looks lovely with obviously all the bright, vibrant colours. And yeah, I think even the little annoying cat didn't annoy me too much.
Yeah, what I'd say about this one, from my perspective of the bit I played with it, is that it's, again, a bit of a slow burner.
Yeah.
It does take a while. There's a lot of story being chucked at you to start with. And it's also one of those where it's not as easy as saying, oh, I love Monster Hunter, therefore I'll buy this, because it's nothing like the base series. But still a decent game in its own right if you like turn-based RPGs.
That one got a SwitchUp score of 83%. Coming in second then, and I think it's one of the few months where I've not got the number 1 highest rated game.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Number 2, we have Beyond Good and Evil, the 20th anniversary edition, which has to be said has absolutely smashed it this month. And it was, I think, because it's one of those games that's so loved and people didn't expect it.
Yes.
Just dropped out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, which is so odd, isn't it? You'd think, because obviously first time round, I don't think it sold very well, but it clearly has a following these days.
Huge following.
You'd think they'd make the most of that and be like, this time we're going to make sure. But they didn't. They just dropped it into the ocean and walked off, didn't they?
Oh, they did. They dropped it into the ocean of SwitchUp. We rescued it with a ring.
It's like the end of Titanic with the necklace.
It really is.
Just plops it in, off she went.
That means we're the diamond.
That means the game's the diamond.
Yeah, it does. All right.
You're missing your metaphors up there.
I think we should be the diamond, if anything. So yeah, they've done a lot to it. I think that was another big surprise. It looks significantly improved. This is what a lot of people veering from remaster almost to remake, because you've got new character models and things, or at least massively improved character models. It runs well on Switch. It would have been nice to have 60, but how often do we say that? I think overall, if you've played the original, or even if you haven't, it still holds up to this day. It's got things like real-time action combat, where the character automatically switches between enemies that we take for granted now. But it still works a lot better than a lot of modern games. And it's just a good, solid storyline. It's Ubisoft really at their best, which I don't think they've been for a very long time.
Yeah, they have their moments, but for the most part, it's a bit cookie cutter these days, isn't it?
It is. You know what? I think, although it was a bit of a copy of another game. What was that one?
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Right? It's Phoenix something.
Yeah. Phoenix Rising.
Rising, yeah.
Yeah, although it's completely, a different game, Phoenix Rising, for me, showed a lot more of Ubisoft's skills than a lot of the Assassin's Creed games that have come out.
Yeah.
And this kind of reminds me that they are, they've got some really talented individuals there. They're just too safe now.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, they have also confirmed that the sequel to this is still in the works, which I think has made a lot of people happy. And I wouldn't be... You're not going to release this too far away from your sequel, are you?
No, let's just hope when it comes, they don't just drop it in and leave
Well,
it
it's
be.
good for us when they do that, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
That one got a SwitchUp score of 88%.
So into first place for the month then, and we have Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Now this is a re-release, I guess, of this base game, albeit with a brand new storyline thrown in there for good measure. And it does add some quality of life features to that original game, which is included here too, just to clarify that. So basically you can choose which of the storylines you want to play from at the beginning, and it does take a while before you see anything different. A lot of the game is very similar, with a few bits thrown in to set up story beats later on, if you know what I mean. But it is essentially 2 stories in one this time round for a little bit more money. The problem with it is there is no way of buying just that new story. You'll need to buy the whole game again if you bought it first time round, which did upset a lot of people. Heard a lot of people say that it's typical Atlus. Now I don't know a lot about that, because Atlus for the most part don't release games physically in the UK, so it's few and far between when they do. So it's clearly something that a lot of their other games have done in the past, you know what I mean? But aside from all that, just the game itself is fantastic. It's such a good game, and this is a very good update, especially the quality of life features that just remove a little bit of the frustration that did bring the first release down a bit for me,
Yeah, I think Atlus, like you say, with Persona, they've done that, haven't
Yes, they have.
They've released
Persona 5 Royal, was it?
Royal versions and golden versions, all these things, that kind of repackage the same stuff. I mean, yeah, I get why they do it. This game is absolutely incredible. Now, this is my first experience with it, so I've lucked out, really. I'm getting like the deluxe edition of a game that was already great. And it's Pokemon for adults, let's be real. Like, you're collecting up these different creatures, you're fusing them together, you're making new ones. It's got like a very clever system for that as well, where you can do it like forwards or backwards. You can look at the end result and then fuse backwards and actually buy some of the monsters that you haven't got yet. Or you can do it the other way around, piece them together yourself. And there's a couple of other ones in there as well, where you can take parts of their skills and put them into your own character. It's quality.
It is. And what I find with it, because of the way that mechanic works, whereas in something like Pokemon where you have a starting team that almost doesn't change all the way through, barring maybe a couple of late game additions, here you're constantly changing your team up. I don't think I've got a single member from my original team, and that's good. That's good for the game. It keeps you on your toes, And I would wholeheartedly recommend this if you like turn-based RPGs. If you haven't bought the original, buy this one. This is the one to get. If you have, it's a much harder sell, but if you're willing to put time into what will be a lot of the same for the most part, it's still a good experience. With all that said, it got highest score for the month, a SwitchUp score of 91%.
So that's it, those are our highest scores. There were a couple of games that didn't get reviewed this month, we know that. A couple of them actually are going to be in next month's video, so don't worry too much.
Absolutely right. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit, I'm pretty sure Mark said it at the start, do use our website switchup.gg. Not only does it help the channel out, which is much appreciated, but it does mean that you'll save yourself 5% back in cashback. You'll get it that you can then use against a future purchase. And there's links down there to stores such as PlayAsia. Again, it does help us out, and there's some discount codes down there to save you a bit of money as well. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.